Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Tim Sure. Welcome to the podcast. So I'm super excited to have you here today because I'm doing a special episode where I'm interviewing myself. Today I'm talking about leadership lessons that I've learned from working with corporate America for the last 7 or 8 years.
Here's the question. What's going on inside the minds of top achievers that cause them to make extraordinary breakthroughs both personally and professionally? My name is Tim Sure, and I invite you to join me as we take a deep dive into the unconscious mind and discover how to transform your biggest dreams into a reality. Welcome to the How to Be Mesmerizing podcast.
So, I remember I just had such an interesting idea of what I thought corporate America meant. See, I was a kid growing up in a small town around a lot of cornfields, and I didn't know anything about corporate America or working for a big company. I didn't know anything of that. So, and then, of course, when I went to school and then I became an entrepreneur, I still didn't go into corporate America. I built a practice on my own and learned all the business skills and everything that I needed to create a really thriving, successful business by the School of Hard Knocks, by trial and error. And the only reason that I ended up working with companies is because I would have a lot of clients that would come in that were company presidents or CEOs, or they were in the C-suite, or, you know, whoever. They would just come in and they'd be talking about the stress they were having or the pressure they were under, or you know, these company presidents didn't really have anybody that they could be honest with or really open up to. They always had to be the one who was in control or who had to be the motivator, so they didn't have anyone motivating them. And a lot of people were just plain old stressed out, right? I've worked with a lot of execs that were on Zoloft and Prozac and drinking too much, smoking too much, eating too much, just trying to cope with the pressures and the demands of the job. And so after we would get some pretty fantastic results, they would say, hey, do you think you could come in and talk to my leadership team? Or, hey, you think you could work with my sales team and maybe get them to, provide a little better customer service or close more sales? And I was like, sure. I mean, I know people. I'm not sure if I can do things for companies because I had this weird belief that somehow they were these big fancy buildings with, I don't know, robots in there or people that were much more sophisticated than me. And so I remember going into some of my very first companies, and I had a really exciting revelation. And the revelation was companies are just buildings full of humans. And I'm really good with humans, right? I'm really good with shifting limiting beliefs and helping people to recognize their blind spots and increase productivity and improve their communication skills and their persuasive strategies and help people feel more confident and focused and motivated and driven and how to be team players. I knew all that stuff. I just didn't realize that that's exactly what people needed in corporate America. In fact, with all the leadership programs, all the leadership books out there, all the famous speakers, I figured, well, everybody already has it together, right? They don't need me. My goodness, there's so much information out there and so many amazing speakers and trainers that it's already been done, right? And so, wrong. I came into these companies, and the first thing that I learned is that most people are not studying any of that stuff. Most companies do not have training programs in place. Most salespeople never listen to sales trainings. They've never had a sales training. They don't read sales books. They don't listen to sales podcasts. They don't listen to audio programs. You know, maybe the top 10% do, and that's why they're in the top 10%. But I found that most people, when I come in and I start sharing these insights and strategies, they've never heard this stuff before. And even the basic stuff. Now, if you have been a student of success for a long time, then I'm still going to give you some tools and tricks that you've never heard before, because my unique background with hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming and working with people's unconscious minds and their emotional programming, it's very different than the conscious, logical, systematic approaches that are out there today, right? They give you a lot of great insights, but they don't show you how to get people to use them, how to get people to apply them, how to create sustainability. most of the time people get motivated for a couple of days and then they go right back to what they were doing before. So I decided if I was going to work with people, I was going to do it different. I was going to take them through these experiences that shift people at an emotional level and give them tools that they could start using right away, not just so that they could be better leaders, not just so that they could grow profitability, top and bottom line profitability, but really so that they could become better humans. I remember talking with Dave Lindsay, who was the founder of Defenders, and he said the secret to growing businesses is you don't grow businesses, you grow people, right? Companies don't grow, people do. And when you grow people, then your profits grow exponentially because people want to help. They want to be more engaged. They want to go that extra effort. They want to give that discretionary effort because they feel valued. They feel cared for. They can see their contributions at work, and it makes them feel good. It makes them feel significant. And, that intrinsic motivation is where it's at. That is not how it's still run, though. Most of corporate America is still carrot and stick approach, right? My way or the highway. And I'm excited that in our new digital era, in the age of the internet, where people can communicate with one another so much easier, that it has created an atmosphere of transparency, right? So now people know what's going on all over the place, and especially in different companies. And leaders are getting busted out, right? People are now have a voice, and those in power are being held accountable for their actions. Not as much as they probably need to be, but this is causing a lot more people to say, hey, we want to be more appreciated. We want to be able to trust our leaders. We want to be compensated fairly. We want to work hard. We want to make a difference. We want to share ideas and be innovative. And we don't want to just be told what to do. I remember, who was it? I cannot remember. I think it was Steve Jobs who said, don't go and tell brilliant people what to do. Hire brilliant people and have them tell you what to do. Because remember, Steve Jobs was the innovator and the visionary for Apple. But it was Steve Wozniacki that built it and designed it, right? So we want to make sure that we recognize that, and I hope I've got that right. I think I do. Sometimes I get Apple and Windows mixed up. But anyway, so I can't remember where Steve Wozniacki is with, but please forgive me on that detail because I cannot remember right now. So now I'm going to have to go look it up. But I do remember that the point of it was the same, and that is you want to encourage people to be their best, and you don't want to accidentally step on their talent, which is what a lot of leaders do on accident. Some of them do it because they want to be significant, they want to be the best, and they'll step on whoever they can to get it. Some people are rewarded like that. I was talking to a very successful financial advisor who wanted to get out of the business because he says, the financial industry is always going to be a bit corrupt, and it's because people are financially rewarded for doing things that are selfish. We get financially rewarded for doing things that are in our own best interest, not just in our client's best interest. And as a result, greed is rewarded. And so people are going to keep doing things, and jobs are going to keep getting cut, and people are going to block their employees and their customers from having the best possible experience because they get rewarded based on their bonuses. And the way their bonuses are set up, it's whatever, if they set it up so that the person in charge is getting all the money, and he or she is making decisions based on their bonus and not based on what's good for everybody involved. And that's pretty common. It's just how it is, and we want to change that so that it's just how it is doesn't become our slogan. Because when I first started working with companies, I heard that it was almost like a battle cry. Well, that's just how we do things around here. Not if you want to stay relevant, not if you want to be sustainable. U.S. Borders bookstores, how that worked out for them. That's how we do that around there. No executive at Borders said, hey, What day do you think Amazon's going to come and wipe us out? Nobody was thinking that. Everybody was doing their job, and everybody thought they were doing a great job, but they weren't working together. It was a bunch of individuals who were doing their own thing based on what they were told to do, and because that's how they always did it. And now they're not in business anymore because you get innovators that come in that are very collaborative, that are working together to raise the bar and take it to a whole other level. And Amazon shifted from a distribution company to a world-class service organization. And now they are the bar, right? So they haven't raised the bar, they are the bar. And they know it. And it's caused everybody else to step up their game. So here's some leadership lessons and some things that I've learned from observing a lot of leaders and talking to a lot of leaders. Anytime I talk to a leader that I really am impressed with, I say, hey, can you be on my podcast, or can you share some insights? And just from getting to know them, I realize that they have a lot of things in common. And so leadership lesson number one, they really focus on serving others. It's not just what they can get, it's what they can give and how they can contribute. And so the best leaders are not the greatest talkers, they're the greatest listeners. They are constantly surveying people and talking to them and trying to get feedback, and they have an open door policy, and they try to be as transparent as possible. Now, that makes a lot of people feel very nervous. And if they feel very nervous, it's because they're threatened in some way. Because the best leaders, I remember walking into this one company, and I walked into the president's office, and just out of habit, I went to close the door, and he says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Closing the door." He says, "Why?" He says, "There's nothing we're going to talk about in here that I don't mind anybody else hearing. We have very, very transparent here." And I was like, wow, that's fantastic. I mean, I was just so amazed. And that company president and I are friends now because I was like, oh, I want to be friends with this person. This is just fantastic. And he believed in serving people. He believed in everybody has a voice and has an opinion and has a story, and he wanted to hear them all, right? Spent a lot of time communicating with people, and his people were very loyal as a result. So we want to make sure that that if you are in a leadership position, that you are behaving in the same way, that you are focused on how can I serve others? How can I be others focused? What can I do to coach somebody else to success? What can I do to make sure that their goals are my goals? And a lot of times people say, well, I don't have time to help everybody else reach their goal. I barely have enough time to achieve my own. And I've heard that a lot lately. Everybody's so busy and so overwhelmed with all the to-dos and all the things that they have going on. It just feels like the world is going so much faster. But again, that's a self-limiting belief. And we are full of self-limiting beliefs. If we tell ourselves, I don't have time to validate someone, I don't have time to slow down when I'm walking through the hallway or I'm walking through the warehouse, I'm going as fast as I can and not making eye contact because I'm afraid someone's going to stop me and I don't have time for that. Well, all your people are going to do are resent you, right? All they're going to do is make up stories in their head for why you're doing that. Oh, you must think you're so cool, or you don't care about us, right? They'll just make up their stories. And you're giving them the opportunity to do that because you're not looking at them or making eye contact or realizing that they're more important than the stuff you have to do. Your people are always more important than your tasks, no matter what you have to get done. Yeah, but my customers, they're not going to be happy about that if they don't get their stuff. Okay, more excuses, right? Of course you want to take care of your customers, but your number one customer is your employee, your coworker, right? The person that you're leading. Because if you're not taking care of the people in your company, they won't take care of your customers. They pass along whatever they learn from you. So make sure you're very clear on the messages that you're sending. All right. So one of the things that I've learned is that there's a lot of self-deception. Self-deception is when we are accidentally, without our awareness, it's a blind spot, we're causing problems or adding to the problems that we are complaining about and not realizing it. And so self-deception is rampant. It happens to us all the time. And when we are self-deceived, when we have a blind spot and we're not aware of it, then we start telling ourselves a story. And the story usually involves us being better than we really are and other people being worse than they really are. And then our whole view of reality gets distorted. And then we start justifying, we start finding all this evidence to support our case. And then because our mind is looking for specific evidence, it blocks out any other kind of evidence, because you will find whatever it is that you look for hard enough. And then it creates this whole case that keeps you stuck in a limiting belief, in a limiting habit, in a limiting set of behaviors that continue to fuel the very problems that you are going home complaining about to your spouse at night. So the first way to get out of self-deception is to slow things down and say, all right, wait a second. What's going on here? What can I learn from this situation? How might I look at this from a different point of view? How might other people be viewing this situation right now? Do I know how other people are viewing this situation? Do I think that they're just being negative, or maybe I should have a conversation with them and understand why they're behaving the way they're behaving, or why they're saying the things that they're saying, right? Maybe we need to have a conversation. You know, some companies this one company I've done over 70 programs for this one company over the years. 70 90-minute programs. I have a huge binder of exercises and experiences and workshops that I've had to create from working with this one company alone. It's created incredible programs that I now offer to other companies. And one of the programs that I offer, or all these programs actually, are designed to keep dialogue going. They're all designed to get people talking with themselves and creating more mindfulness, more self-awareness, so they recognize what might be driving them, and also how to keep talking with everybody else so that you keep the lines of communication open, because that is truly the secret to everything. It's a secret to being more profitable. It's a secret to growing sales. It's a secret to making sure your marketing works more effectively. It's a secret to dynamic innovation. Because if you're not communicating with other people, then you're missing out on this knowledge pool. You're missing out on all these other ideas that could have been that you never had access to. Or if you're not connecting with people, you're making up all these assumptions in your mind about how you think things are, and they're doing the same thing. And what you have is a whole bunch of people who sometimes think they're on the same page and they're totally not. Or there's all these grudges that happen based on miscommunication. Or people are assuming that other people in other departments don't care, or they don't want to work hard, or they make up all these other baloney ideas instead of having conversations with these people. And people end up not helping each other up, or you end up with silos, or you end up with these mini kingdoms, or you end up with people holding grudges for 10 years based on all this miscommunication. And it really messes up where people could be and how successful people could be. And I got to tell you, I've walked into some of these companies where they've got trophies for being great places to work. They have trophies for customer service. They have pictures of people holding these certificates and everybody smiling. And you think, wow, this has got to be a fantastic company to work for. And then you go start talking to employees, and all of a sudden they're telling you an entirely different story. Oh yeah, right, it looks good, but that's not what happens here. Oh yeah, everybody talks a good game, but that's not what's going on. And it's like, really? And then it's fascinating because I'm listening to all these different stories, and I feel like a detective tracing the clues, right? And what's really a disaster is when the leadership and the C-suite people are having all these conversations about how they're going to improve the culture, and they forget to include the employees in on it, right? So they have all these meetings and they do all this high-level stuff, and they never include the employees. They just kind of update employees on what their new values are, what their new mission statement is, what their new behaviors are. They didn't include the employees in on it, right? And so it doesn't get carried through because people support what they co-create, not what they're handed. So I'm going to say that again. People support what they co-create, not what they're handed. And so, or if they don't see leaders or managers or supervisors walking the talk, then, again, they don't follow through. If you're not getting the behavior you want out of your people, don't look at your people, look in the mirror. What's going on with middle management? What's going on with leadership? Because people reflect the behaviors they see in their leaders. So if I say, I can't get people to do anything, I can't get them to follow through, I try everything, and they're just not motivated, maybe I need to take a look at how I'm trying to motivate them. Maybe the style that motivates me is not going to work for my team, and I need to learn a different way of doing that. Most people never ask that question. The thought never even pops into their mind. It's amazing how most people just never even thought to think like that, right? And that's why I call them blind spots, because it's totally out of our awareness. You don't know what you don't know, and you can't fix what you're not aware of. And so self-deception is something that I see all over the place, where people have these blind spots and they don't recognize what's holding them back, or they don't recognize how their behaviors are affecting those around them. They don't realize that however they're acting, other people are paying attention to it. They're observing it. They're watching it. And they're making all these assumptions and telling themselves a story about it and judging you. And so, again, that's why surveys are really powerful. And 360 surveys are powerful because you're getting feedback, right? Now you're having these conversations where you're encouraging people to share what's going on. And even that is great feedback, because how safe do people feel when they're giving you feedback? If people are afraid to be honest, well, you know what kind of culture you really have, because now they're afraid of retribution. They're afraid of retaliation. They're afraid they're going to get fired, or someone's going to get hard on them, or they're going to get more stuff dumped on them. And a lot of times if they're afraid of that, it's because that's what has happened. Right? So if people are afraid, you got to create what's called psychological safety, where when you're working with a group, you have to build trust. And trust is something that has to be earned. And most people do not have trusting workplaces. Humans in general are not very trusting. We're so full of fear that we have that CYA attitude, right? Cover your assets attitude, protect ourselves. Everybody's out for themselves at the end of the day. No, that's false. I've helped create many cultures where people are not just out for themselves, they're out for the team. And they're out for their customers. And they leave no one behind, and they really do care, and they really do want to make a difference, and they're really committed and passionate. They're sincere, and it's incredible, because I've worked with some teams where it was not like that in the beginning. And they have become this way through going through these experiences over time that have shaped them and reinforced them and given them a set of success habits and a way of communicating and a way of viewing their selves and their world that has completely altered their life. And the best thing about that is they become better parents, they become better spouses, they become better neighbors, they become better, more generous community members and leaders on church boards and all over the place. And they really care about the people that they lead. And it's been incredible, right? I love that the most, because that's a generational transformation. Because when you become a better parent, that impacts your kids, which impacts your grandkids one day and theirs, right? So when you're taking care of your employees, then they want to go home and take care of their families, and then their families pass that along. But when your employees hate their job and they're totally stressed out, then they take that stress home, and it comes out on their family even if they don't want it to. And then, they take it out on their spouse takes it out on the kids take it out on the dog bites the cat eats the fish, right? It just goes on and on. So be aware of self-deception. Also, pay attention to how well people communicate. So, are you a better talker or are you a better listener? The best leaders are not the best speakers, they're the best listeners. I sit in on meetings all the time where people are cutting each other off, they're not letting people finish their sentences, When somebody says something, someone jumps right in and adds their point of view instead of saying, thanks for your opinion, or let me ask you a question about that so I can understand it more, or thanks for contributing, or that makes a lot of sense. They're not validating the person who just spoke. They just go right over them. And pretty soon people are like, why even say anything? Nobody's listening anyway. No one cares what I have to say anyway. And then it's death by meeting, because a bunch of people show up, there's no agenda, nobody's listening, everybody hates being there, and it's just a train wreck, right? So I remember a story that Nelson Mandela told. Now, people universally, worldwide, consider Nelson Mandela a great leader. And Nelson contributed a lot of that to his father. His father was a great tribal leader. And his father, Nelson said, my father always did two things when he would hold community meetings. And I was there as a child watching him in action, and I learned so much just from watching my father. And my father would always do two things. One, he would have everybody sit in a circle, because everybody should have equal say when we had community meetings. Nobody was going to try to stand out and be more powerful or stifle people's opinions. We would sit in a circle and we would all be equal. Two, he would invite everybody else to speak before he spoke, and he would ask questions, and he would understand their point of view. Instead of just sharing his point of view, he really believed in seeking first to understand, and then get all the data, and then understand everybody else's point of view and where they're coming from and why they're saying what they're saying. And from that, it often updated his perspective, because he had more pieces of the puzzle. And then he would share his opinion, recognizing that it was just another opinion, an educated opinion, but just another one. And so when Nelson spoke with others, he would validate people. He would understand them. I have an acronym. It's LUV, love. He would love people. It stands for listen to, understand, and validate. If you go around loving people, it means that you're truly, genuinely listening to them. And that's where, everybody has a story, and understanding their story, it helps you to appreciate your people better. You also get great ideas, great feedback, great solutions that you never would have gotten without listening. And then you're understanding them, you're validating what they're saying, or you're giving them some feedback or a different perspective, and appreciating them so they don't feel like they're made wrong. Even if you give them a different point of view, or even if they have a misunderstanding, they still don't feel criticized or wrong. They just feel like you gave them some more coaching or support or education, and then they value that more, and then they value you more, and they feel like you value them because you're taking the time to validate them. And that's the third step, where you validate people and you appreciate who they are and what they're going through, because you never know what people are going through. You don't know what's going on at home, what's going on in their lives, what their childhood was like. We just make up a bunch of assumptions based on their current behavior without really understanding or thinking about why they're behaving that way, what's behind it. So when you go around loving people and listening, it gives you incredible opportunity to get feedback, to understand where other people are coming from. I never understood why in the Special Forces or in the Navy or in the Army or in the Marines, in the military, why all the generals and all the people that were in the top, that were in some room, would not listen to the people that were on the front lines. They would not get feedback from the people that were right there in the stuff, right? In the crap, in the trenches, that can see what's going on. They got eyes on the scene, and they were telling what was going on, and the powers that be would not listen to them. They would not take that intel, right? You do what you're told and you shut your mouth, and that's it, right? And people walking around with 4 and 5 stars would be like, hey, you see these stars? I earned these stars. You do what I tell you. Worst kind of leadership. Now, here's the good news. The military is changing. Leadership is having a revolution in the military. special forces teams, which I have had the privilege of knowing many people that were Green Berets, that were Rangers, that were SEALs, and some people that were in other organizations that we don't talk about, right? That I didn't even say their names, right? They, I guess they call them black ops. So we didn't get into details. I would usually just help them because they had some issues with post-traumatic stress or whatever's going on. But they said that things are changing now, and it's kind of, instead of a top-down approach, it's a top-up approach, because special forces teams have this agreement with one another. They ask for clarification. And what that means is leaders on a special forces team, like a SEALs team, their job is to make sure that every single person on that team knows exactly what their mission is and exactly what they're supposed to do to accomplish the mission. It's their responsibility to make sure everybody is clear. Every single person on that team, it's also their responsibility to make sure that they're clear as well. And if they are not clear, they say clarification, and the leader says, yes, how can I be more clear? Not what don't you understand, but how can I express myself in a way that makes more sense so that I'm doing my job? See, leaders own the situation. They don't say, why don't you get it? What's wrong with you? I've had to tell you this 20 times. What they say is, hey, maybe I'm delivering the information in a way that you're not getting it, so it's my job to share the information in a different way until it makes sense to you. That's what the best leaders do. Many leaders don't do that, and that thought never even came to their mind. So the people on the team, they say clarification. They're not embarrassed. They don't feel stupid. They know they're not going to get ridiculed. They know that it's important to get feedback, so when their boots hit the ground, they know exactly what to do. And most people know that when the bullets start flying, that plan A goes out the window and it's plan B. And they have to know what their mission is going to be in order to accomplish the mission. That's innovation at its best, resourcefulness at its best. And so when these teams are communicating in this kind of way, it's why 6 people can disrupt an organization of 40 or 50 people, right? It's because they are very clear with their communication, with getting clarification. Most companies are nowhere near that level, and that's why, they're not as successful in their campaigns. So the military is recognizing this and starting to do more top-up leadership. They're starting to ask other people their opinions. They're starting to get more feedback. They're starting to take that information in, which does 2 things. 1, it adds to the knowledge pool, and 2, it validates people, and it creates more engagement, and it gets more discretionary effort out of people. It gets people to want to offer more than just the status quo, more than just what the job duties entail, because they feel valued. They feel a part of something. Napoleon Bonaparte once said that grown men will die for ribbons, because it's not the ribbons they want, it's the significance, it's the heroism, it's what those ribbons stand for. It stands for, hey, I have the honor of being able to make the ultimate sacrifice, which is to die for my country, which makes me feel like a hero and makes my family full of pride and affects my bloodline for generations, right? And so it's not the ribbons they cared about, it's what it meant, which is why a lot of people, in like Vietnam, they would win all these Medal of Honors and they would win all this stuff, and they hated it. It made them sick because they didn't feel like those were amazing awards. They looked at medals and said, these were my brothers that died, right? This is all this means to me is that all my friends got blown up, right? And so now, not everybody. I've met some people that were very proud of what they earned, and they should be. They were put in a horrendous situation, and they did the best they could, and that was our country's way of trying to say we appreciate your service. But everybody has a different interpretation, right? So, all right, so now I'm jumping all over the place talking about Navy SEALs and veterans and all kinds of stuff. That's just because I spent so much time with them. But again, the military is a big organization full of teams. And companies are organizations full of teams. And it doesn't matter if you have 10,000 people in your organization or if you're a company of 10. Communication is where it's at. And the best leaders are really good communicators and listeners, and they understand what's going on. And so I guess there's two lessons that I want to really emphasize when I talk about leadership lessons today, because they're the two things that I see companies have the biggest struggles with. And one is self-deception and the blind spots that we have. And blind spots come in three ways, right? It's the blind spots we have with ourselves. We're not understanding the drives that are the beliefs, the life experiences, our emotional filters that are driving our decision-making process at an unconscious level. A lot of times people aren't aware of what's driving them. So they have self-blind spots. They have social blind spots. They're not aware of the blind spots around them. They're missing opportunities to validate people. They're missing opportunities to create a raving fan. They're missing opportunities to create greater engagement. They're missing opportunities to be more innovative and successful or profitable. And then the others, I always talk about self, others, and social awareness. And so the others awareness is how your body language, how your nonverbal communication, how your words are affecting people around you directly. A lot of times we have no idea how our body language is sending messages and affecting people. Every day you are either making a deposit into the relationship that you have with those around you, or you are making a withdrawal. And unfortunately, too many people are bouncing checks all over the place and have no idea that they're doing it. So self-deception is a biggie. When you start shifting that, all kinds of incredible breakthroughs start to happen. And then the second thing is more effective communication. Learning how to be a more strategic listener, knowing what to listen for, knowing how to ask questions, knowing how to love others, listen to, understand, and validate people, and then how to be a more persuasive communicator, right? How to use words, stories, metaphors, examples, how to speak more visually, auditorily, kinesthetically, so that you're speaking the unconscious language of those around you. We use all kinds of personality assessments, the PI and the DISC and the Myers-Briggs and the colors and the squiggly lines, and we have all kinds of way of trying to understand personalities, but a lot of times it's too complicated, right? And most people can't understand or remember all of that stuff, so it just goes in one ear and out the other. But really, if you just understand, if people take in the world more by what they see or by what they hear or by how they feel, then that helps you know whether you need to show people things that will help them learn by showing them things, or if you need to talk them through things, or if you need to get out of the way and let them get their hands on things. And so if they're more kinesthetic learners, right, if you understand how their mind works, then it's very simple. It comes down to three different simple, easy ways to communicate with people more effectively. And then the rest is just being respectful and noticing how the words you use impact them. So I was talking to a gentleman today because, I'm always talking to people every day and helping them to pay attention to the words that they were using. So I was working with this great guy, and he kept saying, Tim, I don't disagree with you. And whenever you say the word don't, your mind doesn't hear that. It doesn't process negative. So it hears whatever comes after the word don't. So when he would say, I don't disagree with you, all I heard was disagree. And it just seemed like constantly we were having conversations, and he kept saying, yeah, I don't disagree with that. Oh, I don't disagree with that. And finally I said, I want you to know that every time we agree on a point, all my brain hears is you saying, I don't disagree. And what I'm hearing is disagree. And I think that when you're communicating with other people, they walk away from the conversation emotionally confused, because all they keep hearing from you is disagree. Even if you're smiling and you're nodding your head and you're saying, good job, their brain hears disagree. And then it confuses them. Let me give you another example. I've done a lot of customer service programs over the years, and I'll say, hey, thanks so much. And people will say, no problem, or no worries. Well, remember, When you say no problem or no worries, the word your brain hears is problems or worries. You want the last thing your customers to hear from you and associate to you are problems and worries. Instead, you say, my pleasure, or happy to serve, or I'm glad we got to spend this time together, or I look forward to helping you the next time. Because now you hear pleasure, serve, looking forward to working with you next time. I have a habit of when I work with a client and they're walking out the door, I go, see you soon, right? And I don't know why I said that. I think because maybe at some subconscious level, I want to see them again. And in their mind, it kind of plants a seed. I'll see you soon. And then they usually come back again for some other life coaching or some other way to grow and excel and become happier in life. So I know I'm going to add the value. So it's good that people come back. So pay attention to the words that you're using because they impact people. And so does your nonverbal communication. You know, I would say that about 65, 70% of communication is the words you use and how you say it. Some people have said that 97% of communication aren't the words, but how you say it. So, for example, if you say, hey, how's it going? And you go, fine, I'm doing great. Okay? So now the words were fine and great, but it was how you said it. And people listen to the tone more than anything else. So what's your body saying? What are your facial expressions saying? You know, that sends messages to people. Are you looking at people and smiling at them and nodding your head and leaning in when you communicate with people? Or do you have your shoulder turned to them? Are your arms crossed, right? Are you even noticing how you're standing when you're communicating with people? So I do a lot of programs called how to keep your networking from not working. Because most people that do networking do a horrible job of it. I mean, it's just kind of a waste of time. And so I teach them how to use their body language and how to question people and how to ask strategic questions and then how to follow up so that people feel valued. And you're not looking for contacts, you're looking for a couple new friends that you can be a giver to, you can add value, right? Not just a taker, what can I get, but what can I give and how can I help out? So, all right, just to keep this focused, right? So when we talk about leadership, if you focused on eliminating self-deception and blind spots, and sometimes that's hard to do, so if you need help, let me know. I'd be happy to help you. So it's eliminating self-deception and really improving your communication skills by being a better listener and validating other people and becoming more aware of how your nonverbals are coming across. And sometimes you just ask people, you know, how does it feel like I'm listening to you? Does it feel like I'm giving you my full attention? And ask people that are going to give you honest feedback because they'll tell you the truth. You don't want people they don't want to hurt your feelings, or they don't want to rock the boat, or they don't want to, they don't like conflict because they're not going to tell you the honest truth. Go find someone who's a straight shooter. And people that don't like conflict, they're not as direct or honest as they should be because they don't want to hurt feelings. Their empathy is great, but they suck at being direct, and it holds a lot of progress back. On the other end, you have the people who are very directed. They're terrible at being having compassion, and so they just give you the brutal truth, and they think, well, you should just suck it up. That's how it is, and that's a terrible communication style because it doesn't get you the outcome that you want. People just shut down or become defensive. So you can't really influence them the way that you want to, except through threats and, using pain as a motivator. But that is a very short-term approach, and all that does is it causes people that want to slash your tires. It causes mutiny. They'll figure out ways to undercut your success and your abilities. Or you'll just lose your best players. They'll just say, heck with this, I'm just going to go work with a different company. And you'll have high turnover, and you'll lose your A players, and you won't be able to attract top talent because, and especially now with the millennials and with Generation Z, people that are 17, 18, years old right now, they're not going to put up with that stuff anymore. In fact, a lot of my HR director friends, they're like, they say the first thing out of younger people's mouth is, how's your culture? Right? Am I going to feel appreciated here? What am I going to get from working with you guys? As opposed to, what can I do to serve? They're like, hey, how am I going to be treated here? And because they're not going to put up with it, or they're not used to, like it was back in the day where you were with one company for 40 years and you wanted your pension, so you just did whatever they did to you. You just took it, right? Now, most people have 10 different jobs in 10 years. So again, getting that feedback from people and then doing something with it so that they're encouraged to keep giving you feedback, that's the secret. So I hope this gave you a lot of really good nuggets. I hope that you got some really great tools from this. There's a lot of really powerful insights in here, and I hope you put it into action and take it to heart. And I know that if you really care about being the best leader that you can be, and I don't care what your title is, everybody is the leader of themselves and then of other people. So if you want to make a difference and you want to be your very best, then start paying attention to self-deception and start asking for feedback and learn how to be a better communicator. If you need help with that, go to timshire.com, listen to my other podcasts from other great leaders who share their insights and strategies as well. Use my programs or call me up. We'll do some executive coaching or bring me in, and I'll come work with you and your team. And we'll speed up the results so that we don't have to waste any more time or waste any more money. We can start getting some results like right now. Are you with me? Can I have an amen? All right, brothers and sisters, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you appreciate this and that you take this and run with it. I appreciate you absolutely 100% for being with me and taking the time, because I know how much you got going on. You're in demand. Doesn't that sound nicer than being busy, right, or stressed or overwhelmed? You are in demand because you're awesome and you got so much stuff going on because you can handle it, because you are brilliant. And if you didn't have a bunch of stuff going on, you'd be bored. Come on, I'm telling you, right? Now, you wouldn't mind being bored a little bit more here and there. I'm sure if you are needing a vacation, you should take one. All right. So, and I got programs, free programs. Ask me about that, where you can have a little mini vacation, get a mind massage. I got a free program. If you send me an email, tim@timshire.com, I'll send you a link where you can go get a free 20-minute break. I'll take you through a little meditation that helps you feel rested and refreshed, will recharge your mental batteries. So just send me an email and I'll give you that link. And but anyway, I want you to think about this stuff. Take it to heart. And please subscribe. It really makes a difference. Please share this with your friends. And if you have any questions, or if I struck a chord inside of you, or if there's something you have a question about, then please leave a comment or shoot me an email and let me know what's going on. And I'd be happy to answer that for you, because I am here to serve and I'm here to make your day a sure success. Thanks for listening, and make today count, and I'll talk with you next time. Take care. Bye.
Hey, would you like more free tips on how to be a mesmerizing leader? Then check out mesmerizingleadership.com, and also hang out with me on Facebook, facebook.com/Tim Sure. Thanks so much, and make your day a sure success.